Hi guys, welcome back to AZ Bakes. Today I'm going to be showing you how to do a simple drip. Now, usually you would use a ganache, but today I'm going to be using these Choco Sprinkle Drops, which is a compound chocolate, so it will set a lot faster than a ganache would, so make sure you have everything ready to go. So these sprinkles are, they look like chocolate chips, and you can get them in a range of different colours. I'm using like a whitey sort of colour. It's a little bit cream, but it's mostly white. They're similar to a candy melt, but they're a new brand, which I've used a couple of times now, and I really like using them. Before melting these chocolate melts, what you're going to have to need ready is either a piping bag, if you want to do it with a piping bag, or there's an alternative of using a squeezy bottle. I find this is a lot easier if you don't have as much of a steady hand and you want something a bit more solid to hold on to, that won't spill out at the top, whereas a piping bag, you have to make sure you cut it not too small but not too big either. I'm going to be using these Magnolia Kitchen palette knives, so they're quite small and easy to work with the little details. If you don't have one of them, you can just use a normal palette knife or something that will be able to spread around the icing on top. So this is a 6-inch cake that I'm using here. I'm going to be using about 100 grams of these melts. What you need to do is just pop them into a heat-proof bowl and pop them into the microwave for 30-second intervals and give it a stir in between until it's nice and smooth. If it's too thick, which I'll show you the consistency after this, if it's too thick, then we'll put a teaspoon of vegetable oil in it and thin it out a little bit before decorating your cake. My chocolate has melted. It's a little thick for my liking, so I am going to add that teaspoon of vegetable oil and give it a good stir through. So this is the consistency that you're looking for. It's a little bit thinned out, which is what we want. My cake has been chilling in the fridge for 10 to 15 minutes, or you can put it in the freezer for 5 to 10 minutes, just till it's nice and firm. If you were doing a white chocolate ganache, you would need it to be in the fridge for at least half an hour. You want a really solid buttercream. I'm using American buttercream, so it does crust quite quickly. If you were using a milk chocolate ganache, then it would still need to be chilled, but not as much as a white chocolate. Because white chocolate takes so long to set, it would just start running down the cake and look really messy if your cake wasn't cold. So when it's cold, as soon as you apply the white chocolate, it just starts to set immediately, which is what you want on a drip. Okay, so I've popped my chocolate into a piping bag. If you're using a squeezy bottle, pop it straight in now, it's fine as well. Now this is all about how much pressure you want to apply when piping it onto your cake. So the more pressure you apply, the longer your drip will be, the less pressure you apply, the shorter your drip will be. I'm also going to cut a small little tip off my piping bag, and don't cut a big slice off your piping bag because it will just fall everywhere and make the biggest mess. So not too small because it will clump up, but not too big or else it'll just pour out. Now I'm not going to be covering the entire top of my surface. I'm going to go maybe about 2 to 3 centimeters into my cake because I'm going to be decorating it later with a cake topper and some piping on top. If you do want to cover the entire top of your cake, that's perfectly fine. You would just have to put a bit more icing on top and give it a full scrape around as your cake goes round before it sets. So I'm using a turntable because I find it a lot easier to move the turntable a little bit as you pour the drip on top. If you don't have a turntable, that's completely okay. You still will be able to do a drip. You just gotta have to maybe move your plate or your board that your cake is on. It just saves you going over the top of the cake and, you know, missing parts or it just smearing everywhere. So it just helps guide you. So I'm gonna just start the drip, just small amounts at the beginning. Make sure that your drip temperature is not too runny or it will just run everywhere, but not too thick so it's cluggy and clumpy either. Good. So just slightly applying a little pressure, moving across. And and just letting it fall naturally. Now that we've done the sides of the cake, as you can see, I'm just going to go around the top just a little bit and apply a little bit of this chocolate. It's still quite runny, so it should not set too quickly. And I'm going to grab my Magnolia palette knife and I'm just going to slowly just move around the chocolate. Just like so. Just making sure all the little gaps are filled. If it floods over a little bit, that's fine as well. I like a quite unique and rustic drip. It depends what sort of cake you're doing, obviously. If you want the drip to be perfect, or if you don't mind if bits fall off the edge, or if you're going to cover it with a type of decoration. So just till it's nice and smooth. Just like so. And there is your drip. As you can see, they're all unevenly dripped down because of the different types of pressure I've put on. I'm going to pop this in the fridge for maybe about 5 minutes. The chocolate would set at room temperature as well because it's compound, but I'm going to pop it in the fridge for 5 minutes and then I'm going to come back and we're going to decorate the top. So I've just taken my cake out of the fridge and it's nice and firm to the touch. Now I'm going to be decorating. So I've got a 1M Wilton tip with some pink American buttercream inside. I'm also going to be using these sprinkles. So they're like little pearls. They're quite cool. Nice big sprinkles basically. And I'm also going to be using these little white pearls. So I think they're going to look quite pretty. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to pipe on the top, applying a little bit of pressure when piping, and I'm just going to do a circular motion and just go around the cake like so. Now that I've piped the top of my cake, I'm going to add my sprinkles. So I like to just place them randomly wherever you think looks good, I guess. Looking unique is good, so wherever they fall or sit nicely works well. I find that these just add a nice pop because they're nice and big, so you can really see them. And now I'm going to add my little white pearls as well. I'm just going to add a couple one by one. It is fiddly work with the little pearls, but you know, patience is good, so now you can add as many pearls or sprinkles as you like. I find that sometimes less is more, depending on what sort of cake you're doing. So, you know, the simpler the cakes is sometimes the nicer the cake. So I'm just adding a couple of these silver balls at the base of my cake. I think it's just adding a nice little pop. It's making it look a little bit unique and different. You don't have to do this. You can decorate it as you wish. You can use different coloured sprinkles, different colour icing, or even a different coloured drip. It's just whatever you prefer. It's personal preference. So now that I've decorated and put the pearls on and we've done the drip and it's nice and firm, I'm now going to add a cake topper. Now you don't have to add this cake topper, it just says happy birthday, but you can customize your own and get ones that say anything basically. So I'm going to just pop that in the middle of the cake. This would be a perfect gift for a loved one or a friend. Or even your own birthday cake if you want to. You can change up the colours or the flavours of your cake as well. But there you go, there's a simple way of how to do a white chocolate drip. and decorate it. Now I would love if you could like and subscribe to my video and follow the Instagram and Facebook of AZ Bakes. The link will be down below. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.